And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Schmoes Show. I'm your host, suddenly $10,000 richer, the infamous Orion.
I'm Cairo, and I'm also a Schmoes.
Oh, wait, you're not $10,000 richer?
No, but we'll get into that.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has been an absolutely boring week, and ironically, America's most boring president has come to spice it up.
The Democrats finally figured out how to message.
How to message, I like that. Okay, well, would you like to start, Carol? Because I believe we do have the big elephant in the room with Brandon.
Yeah, I think we got to start from the top.
Okay.
So let me figure out, because this is like a bunch of moving pieces all kind of coming together here. Part of this is being done through, I guess all of it is probably being done through executive orders, but part of it is applicable only by executive order and doesn't have to have any other basis, while other parts of it are involved with a 2003 congressional act that designate certain powers to the president in times of emergency.
Fair enough. Okay.
So, the big announcement that was a part of this is that Biden has announced loan forgiveness of up to $10,000 for pretty much all, I think, holders of student loans in the United States.
The caveat being, if you make over 125K a year, no. Fuck off.
Yeah, exactly. And an additional $10,000 in forgiveness is being offered for those that are recipients of a Pell Grant. So even if the amount of your Pell Grant doesn't matter, it is any amount of Pell Grant, because Pell Grants are specifically related to financial need, and that sort of underpins the necessity or the justification for a greater amount of student loan forgiveness.
Okay.
So, as you said, it is capped to individuals who are earning under $125,000. I don't know, or households under 250,000. I'd have to look into like the details of it to see what time period that applies for, because once you're starting to get to that kind of stuff, like financial years start to matter a whole lot more. And how the IRS operates tends to differ wildly from the reality that the rest of us experiences. And it also, there's like, that is of course major in terms of immediacy, but the two big things that I was most impressed by is that it first extends the pause on student loan payments through the end of the year, and probably will be extended again from that point, but that it also allows a new income-based repayment plan which caps the minimum payments at 5% of discretionary income, which is basically half of what it is right now.
That's kind of fucking crazy, for one.
Yeah, and that's going to do a lot more in terms of reducing longer term impacts.
Yes.
This new income-based plan also raises the amount of income that is considered non-discretionary to 225% of poverty level. So it means that both the amount of this income that's considered is getting cut in half, and that income is being considered less. So the current definition is that your discretionary income is anything in your pay beyond 150% of the current poverty level. By increasing it to 225%, it means that it's a difference between, I think, like 18,000 and like close to 30,000, which is it's a huge jump, right? So for a lot of people, that means that your discretionary income, as far as the government is concerned, goes to zero for the purposes of student loans, and it would put your minimum payment under this payment plan basically at zero.
So what do we do
in addition,
yeah.
The IBR plan covers monthly interest so long as payments are made on time, meaning the loan does not grow due to interest, even if payments are $0. So that's where that comes in. If you fall within that group of people who has zero discretionary income, your plans do not go up due to interest anymore. Your amount stays fixed until you make more money than discretionary income.
Makes sense.
And the this income-based repayment plan forgives loans of $12,000 or less, which is the amount of the original loan, not the current balance of it, after 10 years instead of 20, which is again good. So this is more people that'll be allowed to opt into this type of plan. The people that opt into it are going to have lower payments over shorter periods of times, and the people who don't have to pay it at all is going to increase dramatically. And then it'll be done after 10 years instead of 20, which is the really big thing.
Now, is that 10 years from when they enroll into that kind of income plan, or is it 10 years from the beginning of the repayment process?
I would have to assume it is 10 years from when they enroll in that payment plan.
That's what I would think as well.
Yeah. But like those things, like the 10 grand for everybody who currently has a loan is kind of just like uh a back payment almost for not having access to these other benefits that are going to be applicable from the future going on.
Yes. I mean, I don't. I'm pretty blessed. I don't need to worry too much about my income for this kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
that 10,000, that is going to help me so much in getting these bastards paid off fast.
My situation is pretty much covered already since we had a death in the family last year that resulted in some funds getting spread around. So uh, I am lucky enough that I haven't had student loans for the last 6 months. But this is still awesome. Like, I know a ton of people that this is going to be life changing for, and it's really, really good.
You're fucking talking to one, bucko. I can't believe
I know.
you've had no student loans for 6 months. You haven't fucking told me that.
No, I don't want to. I didn't see the point.
Okay,
You know.
yeah, it's not bragging. I just want to celebrate
Right,
you, my
because
friend, because
well,
I'm
I
happy for
appreciate
you.
it.
Yes,
It did come from a grandparent dying, so it's like it
I'm
feels kind of
sorry.
weird.
Yeah, I'm sorry
But
that
yeah,
that
no,
happened. My condolences, of course.
yeah, of course.
But I am a positive
But
person,
yeah,
and I just
yeah,
want to celebrate that. I'm proud of you. Thank you.
yeah,
Yes,
I appreciate
absolutely. I'm also like screaming on the inside as well.
it. Yeah, the big spotlight piece of this is that almost half of borrowers in the U.S. for student loans will have their student debt fully wiped out as a result of this,
Yeah, this is
which is
killing a third of
massive.
mine. So
Yeah.
that's pretty fucking crazy. It kills more than half of my federal loans,
Hmm.
and it kills a third of my overall loans, which is
Yeah.
pretty fucking cool. In fact, I'm looking at my federal loans right now as we're speaking. I'm like, watching you bastards. You're going to die.
Hmm. I don't know if this is a part of, I don't believe this is part of this forgiveness, but another recent piece that is worth mentioning is that there's been a number of I mean, I think it's fair this way to call this fraudulent universities, like the ITT type places, that were technical institutions that were offering degree programs by taking government loans, basically,
Yes.
that were found through the court systems at this point to have been officially declared as some amount of fraudulent. And it isn't through this particular executive order, but through court filings earlier in combination with the executive orders that student loans accrued through those universities are being forgiven in whole because they were basically found to be fraudulent. So there are lists out there of which universities were covered by that. I remember I believe one of them we actually picked up a bunch of students from at Olivet, where it was a nursing school, I want to say, in Detroit that was basically operating fraudulently and had a bunch of people and just closed their doors out of nowhere before, like, just before the start of the year, like actual took the money and ran kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And advocacy groups were trying to find anywhere that they could to get these people who had already gotten these loans and were ready to go to school and didn't have anything, excuse me, didn't have anything else they could do, into other schools. And I remember all of that picked up a number of students through that.
I was not aware we did that, but that's pretty cool nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being young and seeing the ITT Tech commercials, and I thought, yeah, that's probably where I'll end up in school, which I'm really glad I didn't go there.
Yeah, it turns out like it was one of those things. It's just like, wow, there's no way it can be just that easy. Turns out it wasn't.
No, like college is such a weird topic here in the US because there are two kinds of people in the US, ladies and gentlemen. For all of our European viewers in South American, Asian, and African, um, in Australian, Oceania, uh, there's those who have gone to college and understand what college is like, and those who have not gone to college and think they know exactly what college is like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
go
that was
on.
the big news earlier this week, and the White House on Twitter doubled down with a massive slam dunk. Where did this go? Right here.
Yep.
So, of course, Republicans lost their minds over this. Um, Marjorie Taylor Greene went on Newsmax and said, "For our government to just say, okay, your debt is completely forgiven, it's completely unfair." To which the official White House Twitter quote tweeted with, Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene had $183,504 in PPP loans forgiven, and went on to make it a thread of all of the representatives that were going on the news circuits bitching about this. Vern Buchanan had 2.3 million in PPP forgiven. Mark Wayne Mullen had 1.4 forgiven. Kevin Hearn had 1 million. Mike Kelly had 987,000 forgiven. Matt Gaetz had 482,000 forgiven. I have to assume at that point, whoever the social media worker's boss was caught on to what was happening and stole the account away from them. But oh, it is great.
I love that
Just like
thread. It's
no
one of my
no
favorites.
notes.
Yeah. Is this you? Caught you in 4K.
Yeah. The people, it's been great. There's been so many people who are trying to I. There's been a lot of arguments against it, and all of them have been bad,
Mm-hmm.
especially in comparison to the PPP loans, where there's people who are just like, well, actually, it wasn't a real loan. It's just like, okay.
Yo,
Like, how many times just in our lives, we're not that old, just in our lives, have there been multi-billion dollar bailouts from the government that tantamounted to loans that were not repaid? Like the only one that comes to mind for me specifically that was repaid was the auto loan bailout, and it was notable because it was repaid with interest.
Yes.
So many of these like business, particularly large business bailouts, the money just never came back.
Did you ever see that clip of Biden talking about that, like after he announced that to the
Mm-hmm.
reporter?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I did.
This has been a great week for dark branded memes.
It's been really good.
Yeah. So, rejoice everybody that actually went to college and did something with their lives. This is one small step. Actually, I dare say this will be a bigger step for just education in the U.S. in general.
Here's a really good piece about this because a lot of this is framed as like lazy millennial type crap.
Yeah.
Uh, what is this? A third of all current holders of student loan debt are over the age of 40.
A third.
A third. Yes.
1 in 3.
1 in 3.
People who haven't gone to college for a majority of their lifetime, like after
Yep.
college.
Yep.
That many people.
Yep.
Dear me. Sounds like they need to pick themselves up by their bootstraps, Kyril.
Yeah.
That's sad. I'm very happy for those people. This is kind of
It's
crazy.
great.
Yeah,
It's really good.
yeah. Any other commentary you would like to provide on the student loan crisis?
Um, commentary, not really. I think that hits the major parts of it. Like, it's what it does. It's good.
It is good. I,
Yep. The vast majority of the people who are against it seem to have no real understanding of what student loan debt actually looks like. It's either people who have never had to interact with it or haven't had to interact with it in like 30 years.
yeah, is the kind of stuff that's incredibly predatory, and
Yeah.
it's not even like. May I share a little example of my stuff right now?
Hmm.
Okay, so this is my favorite example because it fucking sucks. Um, my student loans right now, my private loans, not my federal ones, the ones that are actually being like given the 10K, my private
Yeah.
ones, these predatory bastards. Would you care to guess what my interest rate is right now because of all the COVID shenanigans?
Yes. I'm sure it's great.
Yeah, it's amazing. Keep in mind, I'm so far ahead of my fucking loans, it doesn't apply to me that much anymore. It's just 11.37 375%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That should be criminal.
that is absolutely criminal. No one would get a car for that
Oh no.
interest rate. Yeah,
You never would.
yeah. And when I got
That's
these,
that's kind of where we're starting to get with like that's what they had to do to turn around the like housing issues that we have right now is that I think like right now, let me look it up. I think the federal interest rate for loans
Mhm.
interest rate is like 6%. No, it's sorry. Could have sworn they raised it to like 6 or something.
Yeah,
But like yeah, 11 is absurd.
I would never give that interest rate to my worst enemy.
One other thing that I did want to mention, because I've seen this argument a lot about how it's unfair to people who don't have student loans, is that outside of just looking at like loans in general, the government is inherently unfair in how the receipt and distribution of funds tends to be allocated, right? Everybody pays taxes, or you should at least. Um,
I've got a
we're all
great.
paying
Mhm.
for fire departments, but not everyone's having their house burned down, you know?
Yeah,
We're all paying for roads to be built, but not everyone drives on every road or even at all. So the idea that this is wrong because it's unfair is something that I've seen a lot. And it seems to be a very reflexive reaction to hearing this that is not based in any sort of fact or logic. It's just people being upset that someone else got something that they didn't.
if you want a more fair government, sunshine, why don't you go join a socialist party?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, come on,
The other
Snowflake.
part of it
Yes.
is that a lot of it has been, like, where's the money going to come for this, right? I'm actually curious.
What's up?
Where's my? I'm just going to do a quick math because I think I did this before, but I don't remember what it came out to. With the funding for this coming directly from the proposals that we had like last week that we talked about as the Inflation Reduction Act,
Yeah, I
where
mean,
there's going to be higher minimum tax rates on corporations and a minimum. You can't hit $0 in tax now, which is the huge thing. Along with money going towards recapturing people who have been dodging their taxes at that very white collar level. Like that's where the money for these types of programs comes from.
yes.
along with, and this was the other big thing. Where'd it go? I thought I had it here, but I can't find it. Uh, the current government being on target to reduce the deficit by $1 trillion this year.
Why do we never talk about that? Because
Like,
that's,
if you just look at that alone, like assuming, like, let's average it out, and let's say just like everybody has a Pell Grant, right?
yeah.
Everybody has a Pell Grant. That's $20,000 number of student loan borrowers. 43 million.
I'm so proud to be part of something so
43.
big.
1, 2, 3. So, assuming everybody gets $20,000, which they won't, not everybody's even going to get 10 because there's a lot of people who have single thousands left, if
Yeah.
even that. And assuming every single person who has a student loan, 43 million, is covered by this, which they won't, because we talked about there are certain groups that are excluded by who are already at financial limits. That would be $860 billion, which is less than the amount the deficit is going to be reduced by just this year. So there you
Uh,
go. That's where the financing comes from.
the Inflation
As
Reduction Act was so good.
yeah, it's crazy that it got passed, but boy, am I glad it did.
Is this America becoming great again, Kyril?
It kind of feels like it. No, we have a long way to go, but these are like good steps, right?
Yeah, I'm very afraid of the next elections. That's all I'll say.
So okay, that's one of the things here that I've seen talked about is that this is Biden fulfilling the promise he made on the campaign trail, right? He said he would do this, and he's doing it.
Not enough, I would say, but
No,
yes.
not enough, but I think if you take a long-term perspective, it gets pretty damn close.
Yeah,
But of course, more work can always be done. But the timing of this was always questioned, right? Because this isn't using any new legal basis. It's a law that was passed in 2003 in combination with executive order powers that both Biden and Trump have been using to push off student loan payments restarting for the last 2.5 years. Um, that combination is not a new thing. So why did it take this long? And that's obviously because we have the midterms coming up and they are as important as ever. So to that degree, uh, the timing of these is very intentional and being done with political purpose because there's going to be challenges to this. And the intent is that we get, they get the good press cycle right now from it, and then they get the good press cycle in 2 to 3 months from now once it actually hits.
yeah. Oh, can we go over the actual process of getting this? Because I do think people should be aware of that.
Sorry, what was that?
Yeah, the can we go over like what the actual process is for getting that 10K relief and the income driven payments?
As far as I know, it should be automatic if you have a federal student loan that is currently being paid.
Yes, but they do need some applications for a couple different kind of ones for income just to do the 10K because they need to just
Right.
verify that. So,
Yes. So that is it's a fair point. That is already part of the qualification for applying for the specific income-based plans that we were talking about.
yep,
So yes, if you are not currently on one of those income-based plans, you will need to basically apply for them, or at least go through that application process to qualify. Yes.
yes. I wanted to point that out because I've been on these things for fucking ever
Yeah.
now.
Yep.
Um, and the education department should be sending out those applications relatively soon, and then it's like four to
Yep.
6 months after that.
I guess
I'm
that's a fair point too that should be mentioned is that another change that's a part of this that is small but good is that if you apply for one of these income-based plans, there is an option to opt in to have the education department automatically get, I believe it'd be like a copy of your W-2 or whatever your income is reported on for tax purposes, so that you won't have to reapply every year. They'll automatically get a copy of your income for the past year, and that will confirm whether or not you are above or below the threshold that they have. and will determine whether you can remain on that income-based plan or not.
Yeah.
So that's a change where before you had to reapply and file all the documentation each year, where with this one, you won't have to do that.
Go us.
Mm-hmm.
So where else shall we go on this journey today, Cairo?
Where should we go? I think we should go to some of the Trump stuff
Oh
because it's
boy.
funny and it's interesting. Make sure I have all of it here. I believe I do. Yeah, I do. So the big piece that we had this week is that a redacted copy of the affidavit that was filed in support of the Mar-a-Lago search warrant has been released and is now unsealed. It is heavily redacted. Have you seen it?
Wasn't there like a page where like the only unredacted word was ketchup?
I would. Let me see if I can do that. Is this searchable? Oh, wait. No, it's not searchable.
Damn it.
I wish that was. I can probably skim through this real quick. I'm gonna send you. Politico has a mirror of it,
Okay.
because it's quite amusing. Because like for the first 7, 8 pages, it actually looks like pretty good. There's not a ton of redacted stuff, and then you get to page 9, and it's just walls of black.
I see walls of black.
I particularly enjoy point 38, which is titled above it Provisions of the 15 Boxes to NARA, which is detailing the boxes that Trump sent in back in January that sort of kickstarted all this. Because the whole gist here, and I didn't really quite realize this, is that, January of 2021, the National Archives and Records received 15 boxes of documents that Trump returned from Mar-a-Lago, amongst which were classified documents, which kind of kickstarted this whole, hey, why are these here in the first place kind of bit.
I have a question. Who redacted this again?
So this was a copy of the affidavit that was submitted by the DOJ to the judge in question, and I believe the judge in question would have both the redacted copy and the unredacted copy, and that judge approved this redacted copy for release.
So technically the judge did. Like
They were not, I mean,
they didn't do
the
the actual
DOJ would be the,
yeah, sorry.
right, but they approved it. They
Yeah.
they agreed with what was redacted.
That's crazy. There's literally more redactions than there is text.
Mhm. And this is typically how these go.
Yeah.
Especially given that we know these are related to national secrets, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's only so much that you're going to be able to openly say when you're trying to write this affidavit that is, you want it to be bulletproof, right? If you think Trump has these documents, you say, we think he has these documents and we want to go look for them. We think he has them here, and that's where we're going to go. And in particular, with all of the stuff that NARA received back in January of 2021, they have very specific documents that were classified that they received from Trump that there is no question were outside of the control of the federal government for some amount of time because he was no longer president back in January of 2021, right?
Yeah.
And even being president, he's not supposed to take them to Mar-a-Lago in the first place. So they know these were classified. Trump had them. He had no reason to, no legal basis for doing so. And all of that information, I guarantee, was in detail spelled out in this affidavit, but then has to be redacted because they're, of course, still classified documents,
Yeah.
along with a ton of names, right? That was the other big thing that Trump was a piece of shit about, is that he released the search warrant to Newsmax or something like that unredacted, which puts the FBI agents who would have worked on this case at personal risk because their names are now completely out there in the open. Whereas with this one being redacted, the names of the people involved with the search are not included.
Why would you just dox people like that? I just
Because he's an asshole.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong, but come on. Law and order. That's supposed to be what your party's about, right?
Yeah, right.
Anything else we want to clown on for this?
Yes.
Ooh.
So that was the big kickstart this week, is that we had more information about it. Which for like for us isn't a big deal, but that's where we got information like what you talked about, what you sent me earlier this week with that infographic, where we now know that as part of the original 15 boxes received, that's like in the what Trump voluntarily turned over.
Yeah.
There was 184 unique classified documents involved with just those 15 boxes, and we know that the FBI on going to Mar-a-Lago picked up more.
More?
You know, And that kind of brings us to the second piece here, which is going to take some explaining because it is weird in how it was done and in just kind of the concept in general. Um, but is also seeming to be pretty inconsequential in the
Okay.
longer scheme of things. So, as some background for this, I'm going to be going off of a comment here from the R Law Reddit that talks about these cases in general and why this exists in the first place, because it's not a super readily available concept. So, the gist of it is that, as most people know, certain information between an attorney or a doctor and their clients are privileged.
Hmm.
That's currently the thing that Alex Jones's attorney is in deep shit for. Is that his attorney was sharing confidential medical information in ways that he wasn't supposed to. And there's possible even like criminal indictment that could result from that, if not civil at the very least. So that kind of stuff is supposed to be protected at pretty much all costs because, we have the Constitution that says that. In this case, when for example, not in this specific case, but for example, if an attorney was being subpoenaed, he is very likely to have in his possession confidential information between himself and other clients not related necessarily to the warrant that's being executed. So, what you do in that case is that as part of the filing of these motions, including like a search warrant, you would also have a filter team set up, which is a group of people whose specific job is just to receive the documentation, go through it to look for privileged information, return anything that is privileged to the people who it was the search warrant was executed against, and then give the rest back to the investigators who collected it from their property in the first place. On occasion, a so called special master can be appointed to handle this process. However, in this case, the search warrant was executed weeks ago. And the DOJ and the FBI has long set up a filter team to look through the documentation and give back anything that might have actually been privileged already. Notably, I think, was like passports, was claimed by Trump to be one of the things that would have been taken as a part of this. Um, any sort of personal documentation that is in any way privileged would have been returned at this point. So that begs the question, why is Trump filing for a special master to be appointed in the first place at all if this process is basically already done? Okay.
Hmm.
And this is where it goes weird. Trump, and by extension his attorneys and members of the Republican Party, are claiming that the search was unlawful and the materials seized should not have been, under the idea of executive privilege, which notably was last I remember being like really used was one of the things that Nixon tried to claim back during Watergate, that basically the president can do whatever they want. And that includes removing whatever documents they want and declassifying any documents they want. And on the basis of executive privilege, that the president should be able to do whatever they need to do their job, they can do whatever they want. We know how that went for Nixon, and it wasn't well.
But maybe this time. Just
Maybe
saying.
this time.
Yeah.
So the gist is that Trump is trying to apply or appoint a special master specifically to review these documents for anything that contains executive privilege, which is a legal concept that is not widely accepted yet at all, and is not going to like how do you define what documents fall under a concept that isn't universally accepted, right? Um, Conveniently for Trump, he and his attorneys went judge shopping and found themselves a Trump appointed justice in Florida to grant this appointment of a special master. So, tentatively, this judge has said that they will appoint a special master, but they want to hear from the DOJ first. And this timeline is kind of crazy because Trump approached this judge and filed this motion without notifying the DOJ officially, as far as we know. So that's like the first problem is that decisions are being made on this case without the DOJ even getting to respond to them. Like this is the kind of thing that is so like obviously meritless that if the DOJ was given an opportunity to respond before anything else could have happened, they would have immediately just filed a motion to be like, yeah, this is bullshit, throw it out. And any reasonable judge, from what I'm seeing in discussion amongst lawyers, would do that. They would throw it out, no question, because it is bullshit. In this case, though, they went judge shopping and found somebody who they knew would give it to them. Um, and they did. So on Tuesday of this week, the DOJ will have an opportunity to respond, which should be interesting. I assume some choice words are being decided even right now as they decide how they're going to make this filing. Um, by Wednesday, Trump and his attorneys will have to respond to the DOJ's responding, and assuming nothing changes as a result of those, on Thursday, the judge will make their decision as to whether or not a special master will actually be appointed or not.
Interesting.
And the last weird fucking thing related to this is that this case regarding the Mar-a-Lago documents has already been filed with a Justice Reinhart in a Florida court. This special master thing is happening with a different judge in a different court. And that's where this gets weird is that, as far as I can tell, this falls somewhere in between outright unlawful and a complete unknown as to whether they can actually do that. It's one thing to go judge shopping for, say, a civil case, right?
Yeah.
Where you're trying to find a judge that is favorable to your cause before you file anything. But in this instance, proceedings have already gone long underway with Justice Reinhart in Florida. And now, I don't even know this person's name, but she's a very obvious Trump appointee. She wasn't even sworn in until after Trump had already left office in 2021. Has been brought into this solely for the reason of being favorable to Trump and his attorneys, and very likely shouldn't have any jurisdictional control over this in the first place because that's how our court systems work. If you want to move a case from one district to another, you can do that, but it has very specific filings that are required, and the Trump attorneys haven't even begun to do that yet. So there's like many, many, many weird levels of people not being notified that they need to respond to this. People, the timeline on this is absurdly fast, being done in like a period of a week. Um, so yeah, it's very weird, but probably won't matter in the first place. Because as some other law people were pointing out, the very likely response, like say a special master is appointed, the special master is involved, and these taint filter teams, they're also called taint teams, but that's funny and kind of juvenile, so I would try to say filter teams specifically, um, are involved before the FBI takes possession of these documents. The search happened weeks ago. Their teams have been working on this for weeks already. It's very likely at this point that the DOJ can just come back and say, sure, you can go ahead and appoint a special master for anything else we collect from this point on, because we already have possession of all the things that we believe are legitimate or not. And a special master can't really do anything after the fact, right? It's a preemptive action. So if that has already happened and their filter teams have already done their job, Trump and his lawyers long missed the window to try to make this application. They would have had to have done it like as the search was happening, right?
Yeah.
before the FBI and the DOJ had times to set up their filter teams and actually do their jobs. So that's like the best worst case is that this happens. This Trump lackey judge says, "Yep, we're going to appoint a special master." And the DOJ goes, "Cool, go ahead, we're done. You can go look at a bunch of nothing." So that's where we're at with that right now. It's weird, and I expect we're going to see a whole lot more bullshit like this in the future as Trump and his attorneys do anything they can to squirm and delay the proceedings as long as they can.
But is America great again?
Yeah, yeah. If you only get your news from Truth Social, I would imagine you think so.
Good. Okay. That's all I cared about. We're great again, everybody. It was all
We're
worth it
great.
in the end.
We got there.
We got them. What are you going to do now
Okay.
that the country's great again? Oh.
Yeah. I'm gonna go shit, what was it what we couldn't we do? I can't remember.
We can go harass someone.
Not judges though.
No, not
Can't
judges.
harass judges.
Yeah,
That's not good.
yeah.
Um
We can go
you
on to
can
college
harass
camp.
abortion clinics, but you could already do that. People were doing that already.
Yeah.
Hmm. We'll
Hmm.
get back to that. We'll figure out what it was that made it so we weren't free, and then we'll go and do that thing. Yeah?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
We'll rain check it. We'll figure it out and we'll get back to you.
yeah. Stay tuned.
Yeah. Updates to follow. Speaking of updates, do you remember back in God, April? Part of the Whitmer uh assassination thing that the FBI got ahead of pretty effectively that
Yeah.
had a mistrial.
Yeah, yeah. I remember that.
They retried it, and the two people who the mistrial was related to, so there's like four of them. Two of them were found not guilty. The other two had a mistrial, have been found guilty now and are facing up to life in prison. So good job, FBI. You did your job.
What? I'm gonna.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Yeah. There was a joke in there, but I don't think I'm correct in what I was about to say, and I don't want to make an ass out of myself. So
Hmm.
yeah. Anyway, uh,
Yes, Mississippi,
Mississippi Queen.
because this is a weird one.
Yeah.
Another weird one. Um, Okay. In 1890, in Mississippi, they enacted a felon disenfranchisement law that basically said if you're a person who's been convicted of a felony, you cannot vote, is the gist of it.
Okay.
In the 60s, that law was found to be unconstitutional as it was enacted with racially discriminatory intent and was repealed. So naturally, the legislature at that time in 1960 decided to scrub the law and implement something new and better. No, of course they didn't. They took the exact same law and they put it as a ballot measure to change the Constitution. So what ended up happening is that the 1968 government of Mississippi took the same law from 1890 and a vote was held as to not whether this law would be enacted or not, but whether it would be reauthorized with the exact original text or with some felony crimes removed from it. This has, of course, now been litigated further recently because people pretty much immediately realized, of course, that they took the original law that was made with racially discriminatory intent. They changed nothing about it, and then they implemented the same law that had racially discriminatory intent in 1890, but because it wasn't written by the 1968 people, they have no intent in it, allegedly. So it was reauthorized with the same intent that was already found to be racially discriminatory and therefore unconstitutional.
Mm-hmm.
This has made it through courts and appeals up to the good old Fifth Circuit, which they're spicy. Those old white guys, they're a real spicy bunch. Uh, have decided to uphold this law that was already found to have been racially discriminatory.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So if you're familiar with the Fifth Circuit, this isn't surprising. Um, but in whatever ounce of fairness that you can give, it seems like some of the plaintiffs involved kind of dropped the ball on this to a degree and didn't do a great job in the appeals process. Um, I believe the next point from here would be for it to try to get out of the Supreme Court, which we'll see. I don't know if the Supreme Court has ruled on felony disenfranchisement yet. I'm actually going to check that.
I don't think they have. I don't think it's ever gotten that far.
Apparently, in 1974, Supreme Court decided in Richardson v. Ramirez that convicted felons could be barred from voting without violating the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. And that has. Oh, no, wait. But part of it was superseded in 1985. Wait, validated the criminal disenfranchisement provision. Interesting.
What's up?
Okay, so 1974, Richardson v. Ramirez found that felony disenfranchisement, which is the removal of voting rights from convicted felons, did not inherently violate the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, which is the Equal Protections Clause specifically. In 1985, in a unanimous decision, the Supreme Court invalidated the criminal disenfranchisement of provision of Alabama's Constitution as a violation of the 14th Amendment. So the Supreme Court has clearly drawn a line somewhere between felony disenfranchisement and broader criminal disenfranchisement. And I guess this is a further test, or will be a further test of it, if felony disenfranchisement that is racially motivated or allegedly racially motivated falls on the wrong side of that line rather than just blanket felony disenfranchisement, which is allowed,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where we're at.
Okay, land of the free, home of the brave. Got it. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Until you get on the wrong side of Johnny Law.
So
Yo.
I have, how many more do I have here? One, two more quick things.
Okay.
And we'll get into some entertainment stuff. New York, who has, I believe, recently legalized recreational marijuana, is announced that it will be first offering licenses for the dispensaries to formerly convicted or people who are formerly convicted of marijuana crimes as a means of attempting restitution for those crimes now that the public at large no longer believes that they should be crimes. So if you're in New York and were previously convicted of a crime related to marijuana, I'm sure there's some specifics involved in it, you get to be put up first in line for their application process to give these people who were basically wronged a chance to sort of get the first chance to be get sort of recompense back from it.
Okay. Yeah.
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 So it's interesting. It'll be really interesting to see how it turns out if it actually works. But yeah, it's far from nothing.
You know, it's one step forward.
Yep. So this is an interesting piece. They talk about it. This is uh, Chris Alexander, part of the office, the executive director of the Office of Cannabis Management in New York, talking about how they tried to differentiate their approach from how other states did with their licensing programs, where in a number of cases, the legalization of medical dispensaries and recreational dispensaries allowed larger companies to just proceed to get larger.
Hmm.
And attempts to prevent that from happening to create more of a fair ground in Illinois and Detroit did so by having lotteries for who would actually be awarded these licenses. So New York is trying to do this to promote, you know, diverse ownership, as they put it, by allowing people who have what would now be injustices the chance to have some sort of right done by allowing them to jump ahead of the line. Which is interesting.
Go New York.
Yeah, good on that.
Yeah.
This
Way
is a
to.
quick piece that I heard about from California um, regarding Tesla's full self driving and autopilot stuff.
Go on.
It's short. Their DMV has basically sued Tesla, saying they believe that the autopilot and full self driving marketing descriptors are not accurate and that they should either change those names or if they refuse to, could potentially lose the option of operating their vehicle or operating as a vehicle manufacturer in California. I'm trying to find updates on this, but I couldn't find anything because there's some other dumb viral Tesla crap that was going on this week that was taking uh, the news spotlights instead of this. So, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm glad to see some
Hmm.
justice done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. It very well could just be that Tesla comes in as just like, yeah, no, it's fine, and the judge agrees with them. But yeah, it's better than nothing happening because we've been having a lot of instances where there's doubt going on about what the full self driving and autopilot stuff actually does.
What does it actually do, Kyril? Because I think we're all wondering that.
Well, I mean that's the question, right?
Yeah.
You're
Does
still trying to figure that out. I mean, it does stuff, right? It's just a marketing thing. Full self driving sounds very different from what it actually is.
it sounds
And
like a good
from,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
It sounds like a good way to drive up the price.
Hmm. Yeah, Elon Musk has particularly specifically said that he wants full self driving when it actually happens to cost upwards of six figures. So,
What?
yep, yeah,
Fuck off. For technology that still runs over kids?
allegedly, yes,
Allegedly. Yeah, you're right.
yeah. That was the other piece of you don't call it news. It's not even news. The virality from this week was that one of Tesla's, it's important to note this is one of Tesla's competitors that posted this. This is a Tesla competitor posted a video that appeared to show Tesla cars with full self-driving enabled running over mannequins of children-sized mannequins, while the full self-driving was enabled. There is plenty of skepticism to be warranted, given that this is a direct competitor of Tesla, and the guy who did it is kind of just like a nut in many other different ways. But it is funny.
It is. I love the free market.
Yeah.
So I heard some Matt Damon was afoot.
Yes.
Does fortune
So
favor the
Matt
brave?
Damon,
Oh,
no, not in this case. Fortune favors the sure money.
okay.
Matt Damon was on Hot Ones this week and was talking about the current trends within filmmaking as a whole and why it is, in his opinion, having worked both in acting, writing, direction, production, kind of all through it in his career, why he feels that we've seen this shift away from mid-budget movies and into things either being mega blockbuster guarantees like the Marvel stuff or ultra budget, relatively speaking, stuff that goes like straight to streaming.
Hmm.
And as Matt Damon talks about it, it's because the DVD market has evaporated almost overnight.
Yeah.
And if you were making these, mid-budget films that weren't going to, almost like certainly weren't going to have massive financial success at the box office, they would maybe make their money back, but they wouldn't be smash hits and be a guaranteed moneymaker. You knew that you would have the sort of second wind of first VHS and then DVD, where people would go out and spend money a second time to watch it again. And that would be where you could sort of lock in your actual earnings for these movies. And with streaming coming in very rapidly for new film releases and rewatches, of course, it has made the margins for those mid-budget films go way down. So you either have to put a bunch of money into it and have it be a massive success, or you put basically no money in it and it goes straight to streaming services. And for someone like Matt Damon, he was talking about in this interview how he was lamenting that fact because it means that the types of movies that he really enjoys, stuff that he enjoyed making, like Good Will Hunting, no longer have a place in the current market. Where in order to get that talent together for that amount of money, it's never going to be this major blockbuster that Hollywood wants it to be. And it's going to be over budget for the kind of thing that will do financially well on a streaming service. And it just kind of gets left out there to dry.
I feel like the appreciation for physical media in general has been driving up a
Mm-hmm.
lot of shit like this,
Mm-hmm.
where it's no longer art. Like, we don't expect people to have a fucking
Yep.
relationship with art anymore. This is fucking content.
Yep. It's a commodity.
Yeah. I fucking agree with you, Matt Damon. You know what? Fuck it. I'm wiping you off my shitboard. Fortune does favor the brave, Mr. Damon.
Yep. Really good example of this recently is actually Top Gun.
Go on.
Because, well, I mean, think about it, right? We had Top Gun back in, when did the first Top Gun come out? Check that. Like 1986. That was one of those, it was still pretty blockbustery, but by no means like the type of stuff that we tend to think of as like record break, A very successful movie, but it got there in part by being replayed a lot and people buying personal copies of it at like the peak of the VHS and then the DVD period. And now today with the second Top Gun, it didn't have a choice except to be the massive blockbuster that it was, or else it would have failed financially. So they had to like take the same stuff that they did in the first one by having, the real stunts and people actually being up there in the planes. You can't CG it or do miniatures or anything like that. And they had to double down on it and do it again to even greater extents.
Yeah.
And it worked out, but it meant that they had to take it from being a very well done and heartfelt story to being that plus being a blockbuster. And thankfully, it was still good because of it. But like the stakes are completely different, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really interesting. A movie I was just watching last night, John Carpenter's The Thing, would have been a completely different movie if it had to come out today. It might not even come out today.
Can we even, like, compare modern movie? Okay, like, now that we are in the age of streaming, would you
Yep.
say it is fair to say that modern movies in the age of streaming differ greatly from the age of physical media? Like I'm talking about like trying to find a
At our
good.
current point in time, yes.
Yeah.
I think right now we are in sort of an awkward middle period where the large companies that are used to doing things the way that they always have are needing to correct for the way that trends are changing. And we're particularly seeing this right now with Warner Brothers. where Warner Brothers fell behind and they tried to do the same thing that they always did. And they realized that they can't anymore, and now they are overcorrecting to an absurd degree.
Oh, you mean like losing
By
market cap by $20 million for canceling $3 billion
yeah,
of movies?
yeah,
Yeah,
like the outright cancellation of something that is already pretty much done because you don't think it's good enough is it's absurd, right? Like if the movie's done, who cares if it sucks? Get some money back.
yeah. That's like saying, you know what that is?
Hmm.
That's some fortune favors the brave bullshit. Because instead of like, people say sell your coins high, buy the dip. And they saw
Hmm.
the dip and then they realized, let's just keep letting it dip till it gets to rock bottom and maybe it'll go back up. That
Yep.
kind of philosophy. Throwing the
Yep.
baby out with the bathwater.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we are, but I think we are really seeing that in the types of movies that are getting released more and more. So, like right now, this week, there's not a ton of movies being released that are, notable in our markets, right?
Yeah.
There's plenty of stuff in foreign markets that are being released. There's plenty of what I would consider kind of B-rate movies that are being released. But we haven't seen like, I'm trying to think of an example here. Think about like with internet service providers, right? You have like your A tier stuff that have kind of been around forever. And then you have your B tier stuff that have come in to sort of fill in the cracks that the larger companies can't fill. Your satellite internet providers, your Starlink, that kind of stuff. We haven't gotten to the point yet in entertainment where even though streaming is the primary way that most people watch movies now, I would argue, you're either seeing it on a streaming service or you're seeing it on a big screen. The quality of the B movies hasn't stepped up to fill the gaps that it's actually filling.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, you have a ton of movies that are probably excellent that aren't getting the amount of recognition or visibility that they would have in the past because they are trying to fit into a market segment that doesn't exist anymore. Really good example of this, I think, is a movie coming out this week called Breaking. Has John Boyega, has Michael K. Williams, about Marine veteran denied support from Veterans Affairs who, financially desperate, robs a bank and takes its employees hostage. Um, it's the kind of thing that's a mix of drama and action and storytelling that would have had a place 10 years ago, back when DVDs were prevalent like we all used to know them to be, but today maybe doesn't. And by all accounts of the reviews, it seems to be a perfectly fine movie. But it also seems to be that it wasn't filmed on a shoestring budget and it's not a blockbuster. It's just fine. So it's going to be financially dubious for the types of people who invest in these sort of things.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of people do see films as investments as well when you're in those Hollywood
Mm-hmm.
circles.
Yeah.
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 I am sad. And I think you
Yep.
see this a lot with music as well in the music industry.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Albums, I don't think albums even exist anymore. It is just fucking singles and then just filler.
For a large part, yeah.
Yeah.
There's still people. The only people I see releasing albums are people who are already financially sound, who can afford to. No, I mean, you know what I mean, though. You know what I mean. When you look at like the Hot 100 type lists, that's what I'm talking about.
Nice save
You have
there, my
people.
dude.
You have your Kanye's, right? That
Yeah.
can go out and make 25 tracks of orchestral throat singing. But if you're an up and coming artist that has broken into that sphere, it's almost always through a single.
Yeah. I don't think many people have the attention span
And
for an
and
album.
and a lot of the time it's probably because of TikTok.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a whole other thing.
Yo, can I go on a little TikTok rant as a musician here?
Please.
So, TikTok to me is a very weird service. It is essentially the worst of both streaming and social media because all it's really done is like, I don't know, it's really ruined the art of music listening to me. I used to like pop music, believe it or not. My favorite years in pop music was probably like
Oh yeah.
2012 to 2015. Granted, I was a teenager and I was dumb back then, but you know what? If it was parodied on Weird Al's Mandatory Fun, I probably like the original song as well. Um,
Mhm.
TikTok has really fucking ruined the industry. It is such a weird point right now where no one wants to make an album, and I like albums a lot. Albums to me are the pinnacle of like popular music. Is the
Yep.
album is like such a, it's a statement. It's an important thing. It contextualizes
Hmm.
not only the singles in there, but it in itself is a grand vision of one piece of music. The best albums are just one piece of music, even though they have individual songs in there. Uh,
Yep.
Fucking TikTok nowadays. I'm gonna pull up Billboard because like there's like
Yeah.
this really bad trend where every song needed a fucking dance to it so people could do it to TikTok. And I feel like all this fucking TikTok is really just marketing to people. I'm sorry. All music nowadays is marketing to a specific TikTok user so they know they can get a target audience on TikTok to promote the song among other people who will be target audiences on, TikTok. And I'm so fucking sick of saying the word TikTok right now as I'm going on this like unscripted rant about
Hmm.
how music is so commodified into just being a streaming service. Sorry, a service for a social media platform at this point. That's all pop
Yep.
music is at this point. It's a soundtrack for TikTok, and it fucking sucks. Um, okay, I'm on Billboard right now. Number 6, "Bad Habit" by Steve Lacy.
Yes, I should pull it up too.
Yeah. That is a
Yep.
good song. Steve Lacy deserves to be on there. I will fucking fight anybody about that. I'm sure that's probably a big on TikTok because that is actually a good song.
Hmm.
Um, Fuck, I don't know, man. I feel like the problem with TikTok is if you are not for TikTok, you're going to have the same talking points as the next person that's not for TikTok.
Yep.
It's too big in the industry. Well, the industry thinks it is TikTok at this point, and Spotify.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think TikTok is way too much of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Advertisement.
Mhm.
TikTok is too much of an advertisement for the industry to promote its shitty music. So these are rather soundtracks for ads that are going to be placed on someone's TikTok rather than actual pieces of art.
Yep.
And don't even get me fucking started on country music because that shit also sucks. Country TikTok is a plague.
Is that a thing?
Country TikTok?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Sounds awful.
Dude, it's literally just people playing country songs and trying to act country and like, no, no. And
One
you,
thing I wanted to mention related to this,
oh, go on.
is the what I personally value in the form of vinyl for countering that.
Yes, go
In
on.
that vinyl forces you to start an album from the start and listen through it. You can't do the impulsive, like skip to the next one, skip to the next one, skip to the next one. You have to start at the start and listen through it all the way and kind
Unless
of do nothing else.
it kind of depends how well your vinyl is pressed, because if you can look at the grooves very carefully, you can see where the songs start and begin.
Sure. I mean, I know that there are ways that you can get around it, but in terms of like, for me at least, from like a laziness perspective, I would never do that.
Yeah.
And I saw a piece on Linus Tech Tips where they were doing a upgrade for one of their people, and one of the things he picked up was a turntable. And he's talking about, it's like, oh, like because they're talking about like the vinyl quality argument, like is vinyl better? It's not. Of course,
No.
it's not. Like even at a best case, you're gonna get something that is comparable, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what vinyl offers that digital doesn't, ironically, is inconvenience. And all of these social media services are streamlined to feed you the most stuff as fast as they can, hyper optimized with their algorithms, and albums are the antithesis of that. And vinyls force you to experience that to the extreme.
The
And I
problem
find that appealing.
the problem with streaming and albums is an album is a commitment.
Yep.
And cuz like it's the same thing with like movies and television to a certain extent. You know, there's only one way to watch a movie, and that's from front to back. Like, and that's really weird putting it because that's like the typical nomenclature you give to a book. But like,
Mm-hmm.
if you and I were to start watching the 5 hour extended edition of Fellowship of the, I'm sorry, of Lord of the Rings, Return of the King,
Yep.
um, who would finish first? No one, because we're both watching at the same time. There's an appointment to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the problem with music is that music streaming services don't like keeping that appointment or that commitment unless the user wants that commitment because they can just easily stream the full album. But that's not who their target audience is. They want people with playlists.
Yep.
Yeah. So it becomes less about making an album that actually means anything and more about making a single that fits well on a playlist or has a good target audience. You know, it's all calculated bullshit at this point.
Mhm.
Anyway, anybody want to hit me up? The infamous Orion.bandcamp.com. Give me bad reviews for mocking your favorite TikTok artist. Oh,
I saw a thing. It was kind of related to that. That was Calvin Harris actually quote tweeted somebody. And he's relatively quiet on social media. You know who Calvin Harris is?
yeah, the EDM artist, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Somebody tweeted out, I always wonder how DJs like Khaled and Calvin Harris make bread. Like all of their songs are other artists, just production revenue. And he quote tweeted it with, because I write, produce, mix, play every instrument, and sometimes vocal. We Found Love, Summer, Feel So Close, for example, 100% publishing because I did everything. Only reason I got Frank Ocean feature was he told me We Found Love was one of his favorite songs. I wrote that song. And I feel like that like kind of feeds into it, where people have become so detached from how the music is made that they just don't care anymore.
yeah. Well, and then there's just like the fact that I think a lot of the personality in pop music is also a bane to its existence. Because,
Hmm.
like, there's always been big personalities in fucking music. My favorite artists have been big personalities. Fucking David Bowie, Kurt Cobain, fucking
Oh yeah.
those kind of people. They embody their music. But, like, pop artists, the moment, like, nowadays, they are just full of personality that like, their songs are just part of their story at this point. Like, their character. More
Mhm.
so than, like, a David Bowie song's part of his character. Because there's a difference, I assure you. Just
Yep.
fucking dust off your grandma's vinyls, kids. Um,
Hmm.
where, like you said, Calvin Harris did all the work, but everybody thinks Frank Ocean gets all the money because he's the main performer on it, and it's his story that song's a part of now in their canon.
Yep.
Yeah, which I disagree with entirely. I do not like that practice. And I think you see this a lot with like a lot of the younger artists nowadays who have a whole
Hmm.
life's career ahead of them, like Livia Rodrigo, fucking Billie Eilish, and all that.
Yep.
They're definitely establishing a canon with their music more than the music establishing their canon. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
Yep,
No,
yep.
I know what you mean.
Um, yeah. So fucking listen to music, kids, but don't listen to it through TikTok because you can't.
Yeah. You
No,
can't.
yeah.
If you're on TikTok, you aren't listening to music.
May I
You're
tell you?
watching videos.
Yeah,
Go to if you have to do it on your phone, just like go to Spotify, because
yeah.
at least then you're actually doing it. It's still not great, but it's better than fucking TikTok.
Can I tell you about a troll album I've been wanting to make?
Yeah, what's up?
It's called Music for TikToks, and it would all be
Mm-hmm.
15-second songs.
It'd be pretty good.
And
Unfortunately, that would probably actually be really successful,
fuck off. No, I
just
already,
because I don't know.
I already have one troll song that's probably my most successful piece of music. Okay,
People like irony.
do you know John Cage?
No, I don't.
Okay, very postmodern, very contemporary composer. He wrote
Hmm.
this piece of music called 4 minutes 33 seconds. Would you like to hear how
Yes,
it goes?
I am seeing that now.
Yes. 4 minutes 33 seconds is silence. The idea
Oh,
is,
is it?
yes,
Huh.
you stand in front of an instrument and you don't play it. You have to turn like an actual like manual timer so that it's 4 minutes and 33 seconds of silence.
Hmm.
Now, your boy is a fucking musical genius, and he decided to write out some music for 12 variations of John Cage's 4 minutes 33 seconds. And I posted it on a website called MuseScore, which is hold for showing off like sheet music to each other. Like it's a social media website for people who write sheet music. Sometimes they'll do sheet music for like video game soundtracks, that kind of stuff. Um,
Yep.
Let me see if I can pull this up because I know it's on here. Basically, when I notated it, yeah, here it is. Um, I took the liberty of counting out the minutes in seconds for this bullshit. And my little piece of troll music here has had over 887 views front to back. So that's pretty successful by my metrics.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Full
for
five
sure.
stars as well. People in the comments telling me uh, I'm a true maestro for this one. Anyway,
Yeah,
I feel like a bunch of boomers since we've been digging on TikTok this whole time.
I know. I just rely on the meme aggregators on Reddit and Twitter to do the work for me.
That's all they're there for, you know. Just
Yeah.
yeah, anybody who's worth their sanity, go through meme aggregators instead of looking for memes yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good way looking for memes by yourself to go fucking insane. Don't go to fucking 4chan just looking for that shit.
It's not worth it.
It's really not worth it. Do we have anything else we want to tackle today?
Not for me. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, then I'm just going to continue to rant about TikTok for our, what is it? We average like 2 hours an episode.
Hmm.
Yeah,
We
I'm
got what, 30 minutes?
we are at an hour 17, going on an hour 18 here in a 3, 2, 1, hour 18.
A lot of ranting to do.
Fuck no. Give me like a week to write a paper. I'll do a rant, a proper rant. I'll do some
Okay.
actual research like it's fucking college.
Okay. I'll hold you to that.
Oh no,
It's
you
your
will not.
homework.
I have a full-time job now.
So, Mr. Ryan, where's the TikTok rant?
God. No, I'll just
I'm
do it.
gonna set up a bot Twitter account that's gonna quote tweet you every day
Fuck off.
asking for the TikTok rant.
Do you have a favorite bot Twitter account?
I don't follow. Well, I don't follow any bot Twitter accounts. There's the one that I enjoy the most though is the one that tries to guess what's in a meme and
Oh
usually gets it
yeah.
wrong. I like that one.
I follow ones that are just like aggregate content. Like
I do too, but they're all like manually done.
oh, never mind then.
Oh, you mean like bot wise?
Yeah, like automated
Oh,
accounts. Like I follow a couple that just show artworks by specific painters.
hmm.
So like
Okay,
there's one that's like Andy Warhol paintings. Every once in a while I'll put in an Andy Warhol quote as well.
interesting.
Or Nietzsche quotes. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One that I've started to follow recently is what's it called? I gotta look it up here. The Weekly for It. It just posts for it pictures.
Hell yeah.
It's amazing. It's like this was one of the recent ones. It's just for it.
That's a good Pokemon, though.
Yep, for it's good.
Yeah.
That's about the extent of the type of stuff I follow, though.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Just timeline cleaners.
Yeah. That is a good noodle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, as many of you could probably tell, it's been a slow news week.
Yes. We were just joking about this. Let me see what it's at right now. BBC had an article about somebody who misbooked their, yeah, it's still number 6 out of 10. Somebody misbooked their plane flight and their guide dog didn't have quite enough space. And that's BBC front page, 6 out of 10 for most read.
Hell yeah.
Anything else?
Watch Better Call Saul, you plebeians.
Yeah.
You fucking don't watch Better Call Saul. Don't yeah that
I
like you would
know.
know what you're talking about.
I haven't even seen Breaking Bad.
You haven't seen Breaking. You're a fucking chemist.
No. No, you leave your work at work.
You just, I don't understand that. Like, I get the motto: leave your work at work. That's what.
So for me, it was just the kind of thing where I wasn't really watching TV, like actual TV, when that came out, and I
Yeah,
was still living at my house, so my parents' house, which has terrible internet, so I couldn't stream it.
yeah.
So I just missed Breaking Bad basically because of that. And now that Better Call Saul came out, I was like, oh yeah, this sounds pretty good, but I should probably watch Breaking Bad first. And I've just never gotten around to it, like everything.
I would recommend watching Breaking Bad before Better Call Saul.
Yeah, from what I've seen from little bits on Twitter, where just from like the memes and stuff, it definitely seems like that's the intended way. They're not completely separate, even though they're not, a ton of overlap. Isn't it kind of like a prequel?
Yeah. The way I would
Yeah,
describe it is these are not comparable in terms of quality, but
right.
it's like watching the original trilogy for Star Wars and then watching Phantom
Hmm.
Menace. And you know how Phantom Menace kind of sets up a lot of stuff for the original trilogy?
Yeah,
Yeah. It's kind of like that. You appreciate a lot of the details in Better Call Saul that set up the stuff for Breaking Bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of details, I'm just going to talk about this some more.
Fuck yeah.
I've been making a list of movies that I need to go back and rewatch after seeing Matt Damon's comments. There's a lot of stuff in the 90s and 80s that's really good that doesn't get enough credit, I think.
Yo, I think the 90s was actually a really good time for art stuff.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm like a fucking nerd for 90s music. Like,
Hmm.
I have a guitar pedal. It's a DS2 turbo distortion. The only reason I got this fucker is because I really like Nirvana and some of 90s Red Hot Chili Peppers, and this was a pedal used by them. I just
Mm.
needed that because I'm such a fucking nerd for that guitar tone.
Yeah.
Yeah. But go on. What were you looking for?
I have a list, but I was watching The Thing last night. And I was remarking to myself watching it, some of the really clever stuff they did, because it's like peak 80s horror or thriller or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
with the sci-fi stuff. So, you have Jaws, you have Aliens, Predator, all that stuff kind of coming out at throughout the same time. And all of them, for the most part, follow because they kind of wrote the book on a lot of it with the tropes of the genre and how the pacing is all kind of similar and the structure of them is all kind of similar. And I was remarking to myself about John Carpenter's Thing, how they break away from that by showing you the monster almost right away, and how creative that was in the context of it being like a shapeshifter sort of thing,
Yeah.
and being like, yeah, here's the monster, except not really. And it just works really well.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought that was neat.
I
I'd
watched
never been able to appreciate that before.
I was watching this movie. It's called Stalker. It is
Mm. Any relation to the game?
I think there actually is. Let me
Oh.
double check that.
I
Stalker
know that's one of
horrors.
those things that's like a much bigger franchise in Europe.
It's not a franchise. It's just a movie, and I think the game's based off the movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Guess that makes sense.
So Stalker, for those who don't know, it's a Soviet sci-fi film. The basic premise is three guys. One of them is what's known as a stalker going into this place called the Zone. The Zone is a place where physics do not work the way they should work, so anything can happen in there. A stalker is someone who goes into the zone regularly and knows how to navigate the zone and can get people in and out of the zone without getting them killed. Now, in this film, they go to the zone because there is a legend that in the zone there is a room, and when you enter the room, your wish gets granted. So these two men hire a stalker to go into the zone to go find the room. And the whole movie, you hear like stories about how the zone is super fucked up and bad things happen there. Weird stuff will happen all the time. And I'm getting super hyped for it. It takes an hour of this 2 hour 47 minute film to get to the zone.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get there, it is pretty cool. The first part of the movie when they're outside the zone is like in sepia tone. And to show that you're in the zone and things are going to be weird here, they go back to original color.
Nice. That's good.
That is very cool. But like when you're in there, the stalker is like doing weird shit all the time to like make sure that they're not about to die. And like you get some weird stuff, like the occasional weird thing, like they go into a room and come out the wrong end or come out of a different building, that kind of stuff. Voices talking when they shouldn't be. But I was expecting something really weird. This is like a very old classic movie, so something weird's got to go on in here. Nothing that weird happens. Like the weirdest thing is, I would say that it rains inside of a building, which is kind of cool, but it's a cool shot.
Bit underwhelming though.
Yeah, underwhelming. And then like, so they leave pretty disappointed. I'm disappointed in this whole movie. And then they kind of like all hang out at home outside the zone and have like reflections on it. And the stalker throughout the whole film, who has been behaving sporadically, behaving so weirdly, out of control, goes on about how people have little faith nowadays and they have to see something to believe something. And then I kind of realized while he's having that monologue, I'm like, oh shit, he's just fucking crazy. That's it. Yeah, they hyped it all up, and sure, weird things happen in the zone, but it's not as hyped up as it is. And the whole thing is about how this guy is basically super faithful to what he thinks the zone is versus how someone from the outside would see it. Yeah.
Interesting.
I thought it was really interesting. Like I was ready to give this like 0 stars, totally underwhelming film, 7 out of 10 IGN, kind of bad. But no, that
too
really
much water.
Yeah, it really reframed the whole movie for me, and I kind of really love it now. Yeah. Anything else we want to touch upon?
Nope, that's all I got.
Okay. Well, I'm the infamous Orion, and I've been a Schmo.
I'm Cairo, and I've been a Schmo.
And this has been the Two Schmoes Show. Now with $10,000 more in my loans paid off. Baby, thank you, Brandon.